Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I'm truly excited to have you here because we are about to explore one of the most fascinating and potentially life-changing discoveries that might be hiding in something as common and overlooked as a simple penny. What if I told you that tucked away in your pocket change, in a jar in your kitchen, or resting inside a forgotten drawer, there could be a coin with the power to transform your life financially? Today, we are diving deep into the extraordinary story of the 1986 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a penny that in its ordinary form is worth exactly 1 cent, and yet in its rarest and most extraordinary versions, it has been valued as high as $820,000. It may sound unbelievable, but that is exactly what makes the world of coins so mesmerizing. A tiny, everyday piece of metal, something we see and use without a second thought, can turn out to be a rare treasure because of the mysteries, mistakes, and anomalies created during its journey through the minting process. When collectors and enthusiasts talk about valuable coins, they often refer to centuries-old pieces, coins from ancient civilizations, or silver and gold coins minted during historical periods. But the story of the 1986 Lincoln penny shows that you don't always need to search for old and ancient treasures. Sometimes, the most valuable discoveries are hiding in plain sight, minted in relatively recent years, and circulating quietly among millions of ordinary coins. That's one of the reasons the 1986 penny has gained so much attention, because while billions were produced, only a handful contain rare and astonishing errors that completely transform their worth. Before we dive into the rare errors that make certain 1986 pennies worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, let's build a deeper understanding of how these coins came into existence. The 1986 Lincoln cent is part of a long-running series first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The obverse side features the familiar profile of Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, a design so iconic that it remains the longest-running portrait on any U.S. circulating coin. On the reverse, from 1959 until 2008, the Lincoln Memorial is depicted, a design by Frank Gasparo that symbolizes Lincoln's legacy and the nation's respect for him. The year 1986 was part of the modern era of penny production, a time when the U.S. Mint had transitioned from the original bronze composition into the newer zinc-based composition, which was introduced in 1982 due to rising metal prices. This means that most 1986 pennies, including the ones minted in Denver with the D Mint mark, were struck using a zinc core coated in a thin copper layer. While this modern composition change may seem like a simple economic decision, it plays a surprisingly large role in the creation of some of the rare errors that make certain 1986 pennies incredibly valuable today. Because the zinc core is soft, and the copper coating is extremely thin, these modern pennies are more vulnerable to issues such as plating errors, cracks, bubbles, lamination problems, and even split plating. These issues wouldn't always be intentional or predictable. They often emerged from small inconsistencies during the minting process, the handling of planchets, the quality of dies, or the speed of production. The Denver Mint in 1986 was producing massive quantities of coins, and with billions of pennies being churned out each year, the chance of rare mistakes slipping into circulation increased. That's why some coins managed to escape quality control and later stunned collectors with their rarity and significance. One of the key aspects that sets the 1986 penny apart in the world of numismatics is the mint mark. The letter D, located under the year, signifies that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. While the mint mark may appear tiny and insignificant, collectors study it intensely because rare anomalies related to the mint mark can be worth astonishing amounts of money. In the case of the 1986 penny, some examples have been found with mint marks that appear doubled, misplaced, partially missing, or struck with unusual force, leading to distortions. In an era before the U.S. Mint fully transitioned to computerized mint mark placement, these small variations were the result of the mint mark being added manually to the die. That means any slight movement, tilt, or shift could create a rare and valuable mint mark anomaly. A doubled mint mark, for example, occurs when the punch or die shifts slightly between impressions, causing a faint but visible duplication. While this might not seem like much, collectors prize doubled mint marks because they are unique, unintentionally produced, and extremely rare. A 1986 penny with a doubled mint mark in pristine condition can quickly escalate into a high-value piece. And when combined with other rare errors, it can become a coin with six-figure potential. Another significant factor contributing to the extraordinary value of certain 1986 pennies is the occurrence of die errors. When a die becomes worn, cracked, misaligned, or damaged, coins struck from that die will reflect those imperfections. One of the most sought-after die errors is the doubled die. Although the 1986 series is not widely known for doubled dies compared to years like 1955 or 1972, extremely rare doubled die examples still exist. These doubled dies can affect the lettering, numbers, or even parts of Lincoln's portrait. A doubled die that affects the word Liberty or the date is especially prized, because these elements are large and easily visible. Another die-related error involves die cracks. A die crack occurs when the die develops fractures from stress or overuse. Because 1986 was a year of large-scale production, dies were used until they wore down significantly, increasing the chances of cracks forming. A coin struck with a cracked die will show raised lines or jagged marks, which collectors find fascinating and valuable. Some die cracks can be small, barely noticeable hairline fractures, while others can be dramatic, stretching across Lincoln's face or connecting multiple parts of the design. The more dramatic the die crack, the more valuable the coin can become. And if the crack intersects the mint mark or the date, the value can skyrocket. Beyond die cracks, there are also die breaks, sometimes referred to as cut errors. These occur when a piece of the die breaks off completely, creating a distinctive raised blob of metal on the finished coin. A cut error on a 1986 penny is extremely rare and highly desirable. Collectors love these coins because each cut error is completely unique, based on the shape and location of the break. Some cut errors cover part of the design, obliterate letters, or create unusual distortions on the edge of the coin. A large cut error combined with a mint mark anomaly, for instance, could easily elevate the value of a 1986 penny to extraordinary levels. Another major category of errors that contributed to the high valuation of certain 1986 pennies is planchet errors. Planchets are the blank discs used to strike coins. If a planchet is improperly prepared, contains impurities, or is made from the wrong metal, the resulting coin becomes extremely rare. In the case of the 1986 penny, the standard planchet is zinc with a copper coating. However, extremely rare examples have been discovered struck on transitional or leftover bronze planchets from earlier years. These off-metal strikes are worth enormous amounts of money, especially when authenticated by major grading companies. A 1986 penny struck on a bronze planchet instead of a zinc one could easily reach valuations in the hundreds of thousands. Other planchet errors include clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin appears cut off, off-center planchets, where the design is not fully struck, and defective plating errors, where the copper layer is uneven, cracked, or missing in places. Split plating errors, where the copper coating flakes away to reveal the zinc beneath, are especially distinctive. These errors show the fragility of the modern penny's composition and create visually striking patterns that collectors find irresistible. When preserved in excellent condition, these planchet error coins can be worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. One of the most dramatic and visually impressive errors that can occur on a penny is an off-center strike. This happens when the planchet is not properly aligned during striking, causing the design to appear shifted or incomplete. Sometimes part of the date or the mint mark is missing, and in extreme cases, large portions of the design are absent. The degree of misalignment is important. Minor off-center strikes are collectible but not extremely valuable, while off-center strikes of 40% or more can fetch huge sums, especially if the year and mint mark are still visible. A 1986 penny with an extreme off-center strike while still retaining its date and mint mark is a coin that can command extraordinary prices, especially if it also displays other anomalies. In some rare instances, coins exhibit multiple errors simultaneously. These multi-error coins are incredibly rare and can reach valuations far beyond what a single error would bring. Imagine a 1986 penny that has a doubled mint mark, a dramatic die crack, a partial copper plating error, and an off-center strike. My dear coin collectors, thank you for joining this deep dive into one of the most fascinating and surprising discoveries imagined in the coin collecting world, a journey that begins with something familiar and ordinary, a simple Lincoln 1-cent coin from the year 1989, yet unfolds into a story so unexpected and rich with mystery, rarity, minting surprises, and strange possibilities that it captures the curiosity of both seasoned collectors and casual viewers who might never look at a penny the same way again. This exploration invites you to pause for a moment and imagine what it would feel like to hold in your hand something so common that millions of people touch it every day, yet in this particular case, it becomes something almost mythical, something valued at an astonishing $817 million, far beyond anything anyone would ever expect from a single copper-plated zinc cent. As we move deeper into this journey, we explore why some coins, despite their humble origins, can end up becoming extraordinary due to a combination of errors, minting anomalies, unusual conditions, and unique pathways that lead them from ordinary circulation into the realm of extreme rarity. To appreciate the true possibility behind such a valuation, we begin by picturing the Lincoln cent of 1989, a coin many people overlook without a second thought. Struck in large numbers at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, these coins were made from copper-plated zinc, transitioning from the older bronze composition that had been used for decades. Millions rolled off the presses with the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the word liberty to his left, and the year 1989 placed neatly beneath his shoulder. At first glance, there is nothing to separate a typical 1989 penny from countless others. Yet the beauty and intrigue of coin collecting lie in the tiny deviations that can instantly elevate a coin from ordinary to legendary. A doubled character, a misaligned die, a clipped planchet, an unexpected mint mark anomaly, a rare strike-through event, a deeply unusual die state, or even evidence of an experimental material can transform a coin into an artifact unlike any other in the world. When people hear that a simple 1989 Liberty 1-cent coin could theoretically be valued at $817 million, the mind naturally races with disbelief. But in the world of rare coins, value does not come from the face amount, it comes from uniqueness, from unexpected errors, from surviving against the odds, from possessing something no other coin shares, something that cannot be replicated. Human hands, machine processes, material differences, timing errors, die fatigue, unexpected contamination, or even 1 in a billion minting conditions can result in the birth of a coin so unusual that experts cannot easily categorize it. These anomalies, when combined in the right sequence or occurring in such a rare way that no other specimen exists, create the foundation for extreme value in the numismatic world. Imagine a scenario where a 1989 Lincoln penny emerges with not just one error, but an extraordinary cluster of anomalies that push it far beyond normal expectations. Instead of a single minor issue, this coin exhibits multiple layered mistakes, each one rare on its own, and their combined presence becomes something akin to a miracle. Consider a coin that could feature a dramatic double die on the obverse, so bold and unmistakable that every letter of liberty appears shadowed by a clearly visible second impression, along with a doubled date so striking that even an untrained eye would immediately notice something odd. Now, imagine that same coin also shows signs of a mint mark anomaly, even though 1989 Philadelphia coins normally do not bear a mint mark. The appearance of a faint, mysterious D or S on a coin that should not have one would immediately provoke debate, investigation, and fascination among experts. Mint marks do not appear by accident, but rare minting conditions, including repunched residual impressions from dies that were mistakenly paired with the wrong equipment, could theoretically create something that defies logic and sparks intense scrutiny. Add to that the possibility of an unusual planchet flaw, a strike-through error where foreign material became embedded in the metal during the striking process, creating raised or recessed areas unlike anything seen in mass-produced coins. A thread from a mint worker's clothing, a speck of machinery grease, a tiny piece of wire, or even experimental alloy residue could get lodged between the die and the planchet at precisely the wrong or right moment, creating a unique texture or marking that makes the coin unmatched. Combine this with a rotated die alignment, where the reverse of the coin is slightly or significantly turned when compared to the obverse, giving the coin an unusual and unmistakable rotational offset. Such an error is visually dramatic and instantly recognizable. Imagine further that the reverse might show evidence of significant die deterioration, producing raised ridges, cracks, or cuts, those distinctive areas where sections of the die broke away, leaving massive blobs or missing chunks of design on the final strike. A major die cut by itself can make a coin valuable, but when combined with numerous other anomalies, it transforms into a museum-level item, the kind of artifact collectors would debate over for years due to its complexity. Each one of these factors plays a role in constructing the awe-inspiring idea that a single coin could be valued so highly. While no officially recorded sale has ever reached such a number, the narrative of possibility is rooted in the extreme rarity that coin errors sometimes produce. It is a reminder that the most extraordinary discoveries often come from ordinary objects, and somewhere within the millions of coins minted each year, there exists a small, almost invisible chance that one coin will bypass all expectations and rise into the pantheon of numismatic legends. Imagine a collector coming across such a coin completely by accident. Perhaps it was sitting inside an old coin jar, wedged between dozens of other pennies with no outward sign of its remarkable nature. Perhaps it lay unnoticed for years inside a drawer or an inherited box of unsorted change. The moment the collector examines it closely, something catches the eye: a hint of doubling on the letters, a strange outline around the mint mark area, an odd texture near Lincoln's profile. That moment of curiosity becomes a deeper look, maybe with a magnifying lens or a simple phone camera. Then, the real surprise sets in. The more the collector studies the coin, the more layers of anomalies begin to appear. What begins as a simple glance transforms into a heart-racing realization that this penny is unlike anything seen before. Collectors often talk about the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovering something rare, but this story takes the idea to another level. The combination of a double die, a mysterious mint mark appearance, planchet flaws, strike-through anomalies, unusual die attributes, rotated alignment, and reverse errors create a coin so complex that experts would need months of careful study to fully understand how it came to be. It becomes a conversation piece, a subject of debate among professionals, a landmark in numismatic discussion. Such a coin could break records, challenge expectations, and rewrite the understanding of minting conditions during that era. Now imagine this 1989 penny not just being rare, but being the only known example with such a unique series of errors all happening simultaneously. Rarity is the most powerful determiner of value, and absolute uniqueness, the kind where not even a second faintly similar coin exists, can push valuation into astronomical ranges. If a private collector, a high-end auction house, or even a museum were to compete for ownership of something so extraordinary, the hypothetical price could reach levels unimaginable for a simple cent. The story of such a coin would ripple through the coin collecting community like a shockwave, attracting historians, collectors, investors, and enthusiasts. That is how the notion of a value reaching hundreds of millions becomes more imaginable, not because of the face value, but because of the irreplaceable nature of the piece. The 1989 year itself adds another layer of historical interest. It sits just before the redesign of the reverse in 2009, part of a long era of Lincoln memorial cents. It was a time when minting technology was advanced but still vulnerable to mechanical quirks, human oversight, and minor inconsistencies that could create major anomalies. The transition from bronze to zinc alloy had already introduced new complexities, as copper plating created a thinner surface prone to plating bubbles, cracks, peeling, or incomplete bonding. These issues, while usually minor, could in rare cases combine with die errors to produce dramatic appearances. A plating bubble placed directly under the word Liberty, for example, could distort the letters in a strange, unexpected way, almost appearing like a doubled element even though the actual cause is below the surface. Combined with genuine doubling from hub errors, this could produce a layered effect unlike anything typically seen. It's also possible to imagine the coin undergoing an off-center strike, where the entire design shifts noticeably to one side, leaving part of the blank planchet visible. My great viewers, bundle of thanks for joining this deep and fascinating journey into the surprising world of rare American coins, where everyday objects suddenly transform into extraordinary treasures, and where something as small and familiar as a 1996 Lincoln 1-cent Liberty penny can become the centerpiece of an unbelievable story. Now we explore the remarkable possibility of a tiny coin, normally worth just 1 cent, becoming valued at an astonishing $812 million, all because of hidden mysteries, unexpected minting mistakes, layered errors, unusual anomalies, and rare combinations of conditions that turn an ordinary penny into something almost mythical. As we begin this journey, imagine holding a simple 1996 penny in your hand, worn or shiny, something you might overlook or spend without a second thought. Yet beneath its surface could lie an extraordinary story, a mixture of mechanical coincidence, minting rarity, and historical fascination that elevates it to a level beyond imagination. When we look at the 1996 Lincoln cent, we see something that millions of people have handled, tossed into drawers, slipped into pockets, or forgotten inside old jars. It is part of one of the most common series of coins in American history, featuring the long-used design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The word liberty stands clearly to Lincoln's left, a symbol repeated across countless coins for decades. And yet, within this seemingly ordinary year, something rare and extraordinary could unfold, something that collectors dream of encountering, something that transforms curiosity into awe. Imagine a penny that escapes the minting process with errors so rare, so unexpected, and so layered that no other coin from the same year matches it. That is how value in the hundreds of millions becomes imaginable, not because of the metal content, but because of absolute uniqueness. The concept of a 1996 penny being worth $812 million might seem unbelievable at first glance, but the world of numismatics teaches us that value is not about the material itself. It is about rarity, about the impossible combination of events that lead to the creation of something one of a kind. Error coins can be worth thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands when the mistakes are dramatic and rare enough. But to imagine a coin reaching hundreds of millions, we must picture a convergence of errors so unusual that experts cannot easily categorize or explain them. A coin that breaks every expectation, challenges knowledge of minting processes, and becomes a historical anomaly worthy of global attention. Imagine that this 1996 penny contains not one, not two, but multiple major errors layered together, errors that individually are rare, but collectively nearly impossible. The first error that might elevate such a coin is a strong double die, especially visible on the word liberty or the date. Doubling occurs when the die receives a misaligned or shifted impression during its creation process, resulting in letters or numbers that appear doubled, shadowed, or stretched. On a rare doubled die, the doubling is crisp and unmistakable, something that even a casual observer notices instantly. Now imagine the 1996 penny showing extremely bold doubling across Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the date 1996, creating an immediate visual clue that something extraordinary is happening on the coin. But the story does not end there. Now imagine that this same coin contains a mint mark anomaly. While 1996 coins minted in Philadelphia do not carry a mint mark, and the Denver Mint coins carry a small d, imagine that this particular coin contains something unexpected, a faint S where no S should be, or a double D indicating a dramatic repunched mint mark error. Mint mark errors occur when a mint mark punch strikes the die more than once, in slightly different positions, creating a clear doubled, tripled, or even completely malformed mint mark. These errors can become extremely valuable, especially when the doubling is dramatic or when the mint mark appears where it should not exist. A 1996 coin showing a Denver D but also carrying the faint trace of another letter would be unprecedented, instantly placing it into the category of near impossible anomalies. Combine that with a strike-through error, such as a piece of cloth, wire, metal shaving, grease, or other foreign object getting between the die and the planchet during striking. This creates unusual recesses or raised textures that distort the design, leaving unmistakable signs of mint contamination. A coin that shows a clear embedded foreign object or pattern becomes instantly identifiable as something beyond ordinary error coins. Imagine a strike-through on the obverse that runs across Lincoln's face, creating a strange line, ripple, or indentation that looks almost like a scar, but one formed by the minting process itself. If the strike-through material became permanently embedded in the coin, that would make it even more unique. Another dramatic rarity could involve a severely misaligned die, where the obverse and reverse impressions are not properly centered. This causes one side of the coin to appear shifted, leaving a thicker rim on one side and almost no rim on the opposite side. Mild misalignments are somewhat common, but severe ones where the design nearly reaches the edge are rare and collectible. Then imagine this coin also displays rotated alignment, where the reverse is rotated significantly from the obverse, turning the reverse image sideways or even upside down when compared to the obverse. A rotated die error adds another layer of uniqueness. Now imagine the reverse showing dramatic die cracks or a massive cud, where part of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin. Large die cuds are rare and valuable on their own. A cud covering part of the Lincoln Memorial, perhaps spanning columns or the steps, would make this coin visually shocking and unmistakably different from every other 1996 penny. If the die crack runs all the way across the coin from rim to rim, it becomes known as a die break, another rare and collectible feature. Next, consider that the coin might have been struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Planchet mix-ups happen when a blank intended for a different denomination mistakenly enters the production hopper for cents. Imagine the 1996 penny being accidentally struck on a dime planchet, making it thinner, lighter, and composed of different metal. The coin would appear slightly off in color and size, immediately noticeable to collectors. Or imagine the opposite, a thicker planchet, perhaps an experimental or foreign one accidentally fed into the wrong machine. Such errors are unbelievably rare and command huge prices from collectors. If all of these factors, doubled die, mint mark anomaly, strike-through error, misaligned die, rotated alignment, die cracks, major cud, and wrong planchet occur in one single coin, it becomes something beyond rare. It becomes something so extraordinary that no expert has ever encountered anything similar. This is where astronomical value becomes possible, where auction houses, museums, private collectors, and wealthy investors bid against each other to acquire the world's most unusual error coin. The price climbs not because of numbers printed on the coin but because of the story it carries, its uniqueness, its impossible creation, its irreplaceable nature. Now imagine how such a coin might be discovered. Picture a person sorting through old change, maybe clearing out a drawer or an old piggy bank that hasn't been touched in decades. They pick up a handful of pennies without any particular interest, but something about one penny catches the light differently. Maybe they notice unusual doubling in the letters, or maybe the rim looks strangely uneven. Curiosity leads to a closer look, and suddenly the coin reveals more and more signs that it is not ordinary. That moment of realization becomes the beginning of a story that spreads quickly across collectors, experts, and appraisers. The finder takes the coin to a professional grader, expecting perhaps a small error value. Instead, the grader becomes increasingly fascinated, pulling out more tools, more lights, more magnification. Then disbelief spreads across the room as grader after grader realizes that this coin is unlike anything previously documented. They forward it to national experts. It becomes a subject of heated debate and research. Mint historians study old minting records, machine logs, die repair notes, and maintenance documents to piece together how such a coin could have been created. Numismatic researchers conduct metallurgical analysis to determine whether the planchet is unusual. Every test reveals more mystery instead of answers. Collectors begin speculating. Could this coin represent an experimental production test? Could it be a mint error that escaped unnoticed during a shift change? Could it be the product of a machine malfunction that coincided with a rare set of human errors? Or could it be a planchet that slipped through quality control during a moment of unusual oversight? No matter the cause, the conclusion remains the same. This coin is one of a kind. The numismatic world has recorded some extraordinary error coins. Off-metal strikes, extreme die caps, major multi-error coins, transitional planchets, and triple-struck specimens all appear occasionally in auctions. My dears, now we dive into one of the most fascinating stories from the world of coin collecting, a world where ordinary objects suddenly become extraordinary treasures, and simple pieces of metal that we see every day turn out to carry mysteries far beyond their 1-cent face value. Now we are exploring the story, the whispers, the rumors, and the astonishing possibilities surrounding the Liberty 1-cent 2001 Lincoln Penny, a coin that has captured attention because of the idea that under certain rare and almost unbelievable conditions, with very specific and dramatic errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies, it could reach an estimated worth of up to $807,000 million, a number that shocks anyone who hears it for the first time. And as strange as it may sound, the world of rare coins has seen even stranger surprises, so we're not here to dismiss possibilities, we're here to explore them deeply. As we begin this story, imagine the millions of 2001D pennies produced at the Denver Mint, coins that most Americans touched, spent, tossed in jars, forgot in drawers, left in cars, or dropped into the depths of couches. These coins were never designed to become valuable treasures. They were never expected to become legendary. They were meant to circulate, to carry Abraham Lincoln's face and the word liberty through everyday life, to exist as tools of commerce that nobody thought twice about. Yet within the countless billions minted across decades, a few rare error coins slipped through the cracks, coins that defied ordinary production standards, coins that broke the pattern, coins that became celebrated because of their flaws rather than their perfection. That idea is where the fascination begins, because the moment collectors hear about small, almost invisible mistakes that dramatically increase value, they begin searching through their sense with a new sense of wonder. They begin to think, what if? What if the coin in my pocket is not the usual one? What if I have the coin that was struck on the wrong metal? What if mine has the doubled die? What if this coin has a mint mark that shouldn't even exist? What if a simple penny holds a secret that could change everything? The allure of the 2001D penny, especially when connected with the idea of extraordinary errors, lies in those questions. And so, this script takes you deeper and deeper into the possibilities, expanding every angle of minting mistakes that could transform this common coin into something priceless, expanding every narrative that collectors whisper to one another in forums, at shows, and in quiet exchanges online, where rare finds are celebrated like archaeological discoveries. To understand why a 2001D penny could possibly be imagined as worth hundreds of millions, we first need to visualize what the Denver Mint was like in 2001. Machines running at high speed. Blank planchettes sliding, feeding, bouncing, falling. Dies striking thousands of coins per minute. Workers monitoring production under immense pressure. In this fast-paced environment, errors are not impossible, they're inevitable. Sometimes they're minor, barely noticeable, and sometimes they're so dramatic that they rewrite coin collecting history. And it is within this context that the 2001D penny becomes a coin worth investigating deeply. Because if even one coin from that year managed to escape with a catastrophic minting error, it could indeed transform into something extraordinary. Collectors often imagine the biggest and most dramatic errors first. A 2001D penny struck on a completely different metal, perhaps on a dime planchet or a foreign coin planchet. The idea of a wrong planchet error is one of the most exciting, because it creates instant rarity and uniqueness. If a 2001D penny was accidentally struck on a silver-colored dime planchet, the coin's weight, tone, and metallic composition would differ dramatically. It would ring differently. It would look strange. And it would immediately raise eyebrows. These kinds of coins have sold for astonishing amounts when authenticated. And imagine if such a coin also had a double die or an off-center strike on top of the wrong planchet. Suddenly you're no longer talking about a coin that is just unusual, you're talking about a coin so improbable that it borders on impossible, and that level of impossibility can sometimes generate insane valuations. From wrong planchet errors, collectors often move to double dies. And the 2001D penny sparks even more curiosity in this area. A double die occurs when the die itself receives its imprint incorrectly, causing letters and numbers to appear doubled on every coin it strikes. Some double dies barely catch the eye. Others are bold, dramatic, unforgettable. Imagine Liberty looking doubled so intensely that every letter appears engraved twice in a ghost-like pattern. Imagine the date 2001 showing two distinct layers. Imagine the mint mark D appearing doubled, stretched, or shadowed. A discovery like that would be monumental because it would mean every single coin from that die could have the same error. But what makes a coin skyrocket in value is when only one or two examples survive, or when an entire batch was destroyed, leaving only a lone survivor. If a bold double-die 2001D penny existed and if it escaped destruction, it could easily enter the territory of multi-million-dollar valuation inside the world of competitive collectors, but then the story deepens further when collectors discuss the possibility of off-metal strike combinations. Imagine a 2001D penny struck on leftover bronze planchets from the pre-1982 era. The U.S. Mint officially shifted from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc in 1982, but errors involving leftover blanks have been reported in various years. If a 2001D penny surfaced with the weight of an old copper cent, that alone would create a stir. But if that same coin also had a double die, off-center strike, tilted die clash, or rotated die error, then the value increases exponentially, because the combination of multiple rare anomalies creates what collectors call a super error, a coin so complex in its mistakes that it becomes nearly one of a kind. Now consider the famous off-center strikes. A 2001D penny struck far off-center, such that Abraham Lincoln's face is cut in half or the date appears partly missing, or the mint mark sits awkwardly near the blank area mixing misalignment with incomplete details. These coins often sell for hundreds or thousands, and if combined with other errors, they move into far higher territory. Imagine a 2001D penny struck 90% off-center yet still showing the date clearly, a type of error extremely rare and highly appreciated because collectors love coins that are bizarre yet still identifiable. Add a wrong metal composition to that and suddenly you have a completely impossible piece, something that shouldn't exist and yet does. Of course, the mint mark errors themselves can create legends. A 2001D penny with a repunched mint mark, where the D was stamped twice, slightly rotated or doubled, or even punched over a ghost of another mint mark, would be incredibly collectible. And yes, though highly unlikely, collectors sometimes imagine the possibility of a rare transitional mint mark such as a 2001D coin struck with a leftover 2000 die featuring a mint mark error or even remnants of older punch styles. Mint mark variations can be small but incredibly influential in determining value. The fascination grows even further when we think of broadstrike errors, where the coin is struck without the protective collar and spreads out wider and flatter than normal. These coins look strange, alien almost, and collectors love them because they represent a moment when the minting machine malfunctioned in a very specific way. And when collectors imagine a 2001D broadstrike error combined with double dies or wrong metal alloy or an off-center impression, they begin to envision values escalating rapidly. Another world of errors lies in die cracks, die breaks, die chips, and cuds, areas where the die physically breaks and leaves raised metal blobs or missing sections on the struck coin. A large dramatic cud can bring significant attention. Imagine Liberty partially swallowed by a clump of metal from a die break. Imagine Lincoln's face showing a dramatic crack running across it. These are the types of anomalies collectors obsess over. They search for them in rolls, bags, and boxes of pennies. They dream of finding that one impossible example, but the story does not end with mint-made errors alone. Sometimes damage, environmental factors, and chemical reactions create coins that appear unusual but are not valuable. However, in the process of examining these countless normal and non-valuable oddities, collectors occasionally stumble upon something extraordinary, something real. And the more coins they examine, the more likely the universe seems to offer that rare discovery. That brings us to the speculative mythical valuation, the idea that a coin like a 2001D penny could somehow reach an estimated value of $807,000 million. While this number is astronomically high, the script explores the concept not as a literal market price but as the imaginative potential when a coin carries so many errors, contradictions, anomalies, and historical peculiarities that collectors view it as beyond rare, beyond unique, beyond ordinary value calculation. In rare cases, artifacts have sold for prices nobody predicted because competition between wealthy private collectors escalated beyond logic.